Oh, baby, the off-season.
The off-season.
The off-season.
The season ended?
The season ended, man. It's the off-season.
Oh.
I'm actually really excited for the show. What is up, everybody? Welcome to the DNVR Nuggets podcast. Presented by nobody. But
Still happy to do it.
in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your Front Range Toyota Stores Toyota, the official vehicle of DNVR. Great show for you lined up today. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to live in the championship or bust era. Very, very weird, unfamiliar territory to us.
A lot of busting.
A lot of well, that's
30 seconds in.
That's part of what it's about.
30 seconds in.
Championship or bust usually is more often than not bust. But we're going to talk about that before moving on to what I think will take a majority of the show. Who's to blame for the bust?
The blame game.
Who's to blame, really? I do not suspect we will reach a unanimous consensus. That's
Do we
why
have to pick one?
well, that's kind of the fun
Do
of
we
this.
have to?
So we'll all probably have our own sort of like algorithm we use to assign blame for this. But it'll be interesting, and I think that'll make for a great discussion. And back from Oklahoma City, the Sooner State, Brennan Vogt.
Yeah, sad to leave Oklahoma. Glad to be home. Got off the plane, saw those beautiful mountains, and thought, you know what?
Not so bad.
Not so bad on this side of the fence, fellas.
Not so bad. How was Oklahoma, though? Were the people nice?
Look, I'll give my media training answer. We're no coast bias here at DNVR. Those flyover states, fly in states, man. You know, put your feet up, make yourself at home. Great, lovely people. That city sucks, man. That city sucks.
What did you do? Like, what do you do in Oklahoma City?
Work.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
Nice. Nice.
Same
Which,
thing we
by the
do
way,
here.
was what we were there to do. So
Yeah.
no complaints. Just
But, like, are there things to do? Is
There are things to do in Oklahoma.
I am
Come on.
pushing. I'm
never
pushing
been
a little
out.
bit.
Is
and
downtown bustling?
No, it's not.
Is
And
it
listen,
busing?
I like the Heartland,
I'll be
man.
honest,
Shout out
we
the
have a lot of
Heartland.
people watching who are probably might be from the area. Have people from the. If it works for you, it works for you.
I've
it's
never
a,
been, I'm just
it's a
wondering.
small city skyline, is what I'll say.
It is a small. I mean, it's a small city. Over here, D-Line Co.
What up, guys?
Yep. I feel that. I feel it.
Yep.
Rounding out the show, Harrison Wind.
I woke up this morning, started thinking of snake draft topics for
Oh,
the off-season.
I'm not ready, man. I'm not ready.
I'm so rusty on this show. I was like, does he mean types of snakes?
Well, we still have
Still
to
one
do that
day.
one.
We still-
One day.
In our back pocket.
Still to come. Yeah.
So here we are, the day after. Little hangover. Not doing a hangover takes, but a little hungover from last night's loss,
Oh, and from alcohol.
and maybe from alcohol in some cases. You know, you always get a little better perspective though, because once the season's over, once anything's over, you get to talking to people, you get to get some stuff, and you know, this whole year was very interesting. It was frustrating more than not. I thought the last 2 months were as fun as I've had.
They were so
covering
fun.
this team. You know, the championship's obviously the best, but the
I
last
agree.
2 months, it was building to a point of feeling like they could win it. I know you
Totally.
were there already. I was building towards that, and I was in utter disbelief for most of the year. So it was fun to get that hit again and
Yep.
just to feel that and to see and
To fall back in love.
to fall back in love. And I feel like I did over these last 2 months. So in many ways, it redeemed itself with that. But we are in an era of championship or bust, where the only thing that truly feels like success, and I don't even put truly on there, the only thing that feels like success right now is stacking championships. And I just want to go here and say that in my lifetime, there have only been 3 cornerstone pieces that felt like we were entering or going to enter a championship or bust era. Nikola Jokic,
Correct.
Carmelo Anthony. When you
Bust.
drafted Carmelo Anthony, well, but when you got, if you remember 2003, 4, 5, it felt
When you
like
allowed-
our time is coming.
When hope sprang in real.
Yeah.
Or in,
And I think you can go back to 92 with Dikembe Mutombo, because that team was really good. You know, they had good young players, and it did feel like in that era as well that, hey, this could turn into something. Now,
Yes.
that one, the train fell off the tracks immediately with an insane amount of injuries as well as a dysfunctional organization. But just starting there, this is uncharted territory for this organization. And I'm going to go to you first because you know it most intimately for as long, D-Line, along with me, just being old people.
Oh, cool.
But it is weird to think that over the last 35 years, there's maybe been 2.5 times where you're like, we could grow into a champion.
Definitely. I mean, the Denver Nuggets were forever just sort of like the other team in town. Like they were just like, oh yeah, we've got a basketball team too. I mean, they're not good. They're kind of like we're how the Rockies are right now. Like you're like, yeah, we've got one.
You can't envision the Rockies winning the World Series right
dude,
now.
like,
You cannot
no.
picture it.
Yes.
That's how it used to be.
It was as likely as the Rockies winning the World Series is what it felt like for the Nuggets to be able to pull off an NBA championship or even just be part of the conversation. Like, just to not be a joke, like we were just a straight up joke forever. And, obviously all of that has changed, but you're right. Like there's not a lot of times where you're like, okay, I'm going to emotionally invest in this team because I at least can see a path to that being paid off. Obviously we got that major payoff. Now we have the taste for it, which is maybe worse.
It's so true.
We got a taste and we can't think of anything else except that.
Yeah, because now we're in the championship then bust era. That's what.
Well, it is that scene in White Lotus where she's like, I'm not meant to live an uncomfortable life. That's us right now.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
Meanwhile, we were born in the gutter.
Yeah, I know.
I just don't think I could go back to just
we stayed in a hotel
Hang on,
one
you guys
time.
don't serve caviar here?
Stayed in a hotel one time, and now we're like, hey,
The showers were really nice. at Super
Yeah,
Bowl.
that
They're
water
like-
pressure.
yeah.
Insane.
By the way, Oklahoma.
Turn down service?
You wanted to compliment? Great water pressure.
Oh,
Great water. Yeah.
shouts.
Well, it's downstream there of the old Arkansas. If we go even by year, or let's actually make it more narrow. If we just went into at the start of the playoffs, how many seasons in my life could I have said, you know what? There's a way this could break for us.
Right.
And this is what I came up with. In 2006, the Nuggets added George Karl halfway through the season, and they went 32-8. And you felt like, even though they were in a top seed, you felt like, man, this team has the magic. Things are breaking right. What happens? Nene injured in game 1 of the season. Kenyon Martin got injured late. He missed the whole year. Kenyon Martin got injured late, wasn't 100% for the playoffs, and then got benched because he refused to come into the game because he got in a fight with George Karl. They got murdered by the Spurs.
That sounds like it went well.
Yeah, so 4-1.
That is such a 2006
Or actually, that was the
story.
Clippers.
I've never
Yeah.
heard anything that screams more NBA in 2006 than that story.
But there was hope that year was going to be like going into the playoffs. You hope for something good to
Did
happen.
he bring a gun into the locker room too?
2007, you added Allen Iverson, but then Kenyon was hurt and missed the entire season. Then the following year, you finally get everyone back. Nene got hurt in the 3 games in. The Nuggets were cursed in that 3-year stretch, man. They actually had teams. I don't know if they would have won, but they had teams that were better than what they had, and they just had injuries. 2009 was the best year. They went to the conference finals. Hey, that's what you hope for, right? Just you want a chance, and they came up a little short. 2010 could have been the best year, but George Karl got cancer.
Yeah, hard to say.
That sucks.
Hard to say that the year that your coach gets cancer is the best year.
Well, it was the best year until that, and then they crashed and burned because that team was about to be was really good. So if you look at 26 to 2010, by the time you got to the playoffs, that was the window of that era, the true window. And there was maybe 2 years where you could have talked yourself into true title contention. That was an entire era.
It's so true. I mean, like that's again, we have been so spoiled by the golden era, and when you start to think back to where we came from, you shudder. Like we can't go back. We're not going back. We're not going back.
That's what Jokic said, right? It was my favorite quote. It was last year, actually. Ironically, winning is a lifestyle, and I don't want to go back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We went back.
And obviously in this Nuggets era now, 2020 I don't think was a real shot at the title, but it was the bubble. Anything's possible. We certainly tucked ourselves into a possibility. They went far. 2021 is when it opened, but then you had Murray injured in 21. Awesome. 22, window's not open. If you don't have Jamal, you weren't winning a title.
Yep.
23, they win it. 24 and 25, 2 years where we all felt like it was possible. Whatever the likeliness was, we all thought it was possible, and they come up short. So it's uncharted territory for me to be in this moment, Vogt, where this is the 7th greatest, most successful season in Nuggets history, somewhere around there.
Right.
And yet it feels like a loss, and that's just new territory.
I agree, and it feels like a loss because of the great privilege at hand, which is a game breaker, a foundational cornerstone. I mean, every franchise has by default their cornerstone or is looking for one. Jokic is a historically elite cornerstone. So when he's there, you always have a chance. It's really interesting, man. I'm not doing the bit. This is a real take. You know, Boston won in even more dominant fashion than the Nuggets. We thought
Barely.
well suited to come back, maybe better suited to come back and defend their title than Denver. Lost in the same spot, in the same round. And we've had 7 different champs in the last 7 years. None of them can make it back to the conference finals. It did help me reframe mentally sort of how I feel about this era. Ultimately, I think they have left some on the table because they have Jokic. And to the question you're asking me, now is the time to get greedy. But I do think everyone involved can walk away, player-wise, the players in the locker room, I think can all walk away with their heads held high. I think the 5 of those guys
No question,
are
man.
champions.
Yeah, no
I think
They
this
battled.
year, I think this year they acquitted themselves in the mental toughness category because the reason I bring up the Boston stuff, when they fell short last year, our takeaway was not, well, the league is different now. It's, oh, these guys are cowards. They showed this year, man, nothing cowardly about what we just saw. So I think they've largely acquitted themselves, but it's time to get greedy. Because while we are in the parity era, we are also in the Jokic era.
Yeah.
And you should get more than one. And I think that's this sort of harsh reality that's washing over everyone. We want to applaud the effort. They fell short.
And Wind, I feel like what it is when you open a title window, you can do everything right and still come up short because of injuries or circumstance. So that's what makes every tiny decision feel so heavy because you're like, yes, because you got to nail the stuff you can control because the stuff you can is so wide.
Yeah. And that's
Right.
what really hurts because they definitely didn't do everything right.
Right.
No.
What's funny is you compare them to the Celtics and how both teams approached the year after the championship. The Celtics, you can kind of make the case, did everything right.
Brought everyone back.
Yeah. They brought everybody back. They went into the second apron. They were like, all right, we're running it back. We're actually running it back. And, I mean, who knows what would have
They
happened.
sold also, though, weirdly, in between
Right.
all this.
Right.
sold
Well, there's
ownership.
that whole
Right.
thing. You don't know what was happening off the court.
Oh, you're
I mean,
right, though. And they did what we wanted Denver
Right.
to do.
And I
Totally.
mean, maybe if Tatum doesn't get hurt, you can say they come back. I don't know what happens in that series.
I do.
What?
They wouldn't win.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but it wasn't-
maybe,
it wasn't-
but we don't know.
But it also wasn't just Tatum. It was Tatum and Porzingis and Drew and
Yeah,
Dre.
they had the Porzingis
and
thing
It's
as
not an
well.
excuse.
Yeah.
They, like the Nuggets, battled through all that
Yeah.
stuff
And
too.
by the
But I'm
way-
just saying
Yeah, you guys. Sorry.
they had a healthy year until all of a sudden the wheels came off at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. And so, like, neither approach worked. And, I mean, it's really tough in the NBA these days. Look, championship is obviously the goal. That's what, at the end of the day, that's the biggest factor people get measured on for sure. But, I mean, just the reality is it is tougher to win championships now and stack championships than it was a decade ago. Than it was even like 8, 9, 10 years ago. There are going to be 7 different champions in the last 7 years for the first time in NBA history this season. That's not like by mistake. That's what the league has been trying to do. So, yes, championships are still the ultimate goal. It is tougher than ever, though,
Right.
I think, to stack championships, even if you have an all-time top 15 player ever. It just is.
No one's even getting back to the conference finals, man.
Yeah, it's not
yeah, it's
close.
It's not close. In fact, Denver got as close as anyone has.
That's true.
And it was, and what's our memory of that? Deeply embarrassing.
Yeah.
Deeply embarrassing.
I know.
So like that's kind of what I tried to write this story. It's on the DNVR.com today. Like there was a conflicted sense of pride in that locker room. We did fight tooth and nail to the last man. Also, we're supposed to have higher expectations than this for ourselves.
Yeah. How do you square that, D-Line? Because this year was fun. There was good things. They were competitive. They were entertaining. But we're just unsatisfied.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this all said and done, this was a disappointment for sure.
For sure.
Any time that now, I mean, we are in the window where any non-championship year is a failure. Like that's just where we're at. We don't have any more moral victories with Nikola Jokic. You not only should be competing, you should be there every single time. And if you're not, like it's damning. You know, it's not just like, shucks. It's like, bro, you gotta do better for this guy. You have to do better for this guy. And that noise is getting louder and louder and louder. It's
Right.
becoming the Giannis thing where everybody is now, looking at Denver as what's holding Jokic back, which is not where you want to be as an organization. You see what that looks like in Milwaukee. I mean, it's like really honestly torn them apart because they've been trying to jump from one foot to the other to try and like satisfy what get one coach. It's his friend. They fire him, bring in another guy. They get Dame Lillard. They get rid of this guy, and it's just like an absolute disaster. And now they're in a place where you're like, bro, what even happens there? It feels like they are at a place where they're going to have to completely start over and do right by Giannis, which is like, I hate that idea. Like, especially when thinking about Jokic, that Denver has to do right by Jokic, and that means putting him in a different situation. So there's a lot of like great stories that came from this. There's a lot of like really positive things. There's a lot of things you feel good about, but at the end of the day, it's like, it just sadly was not good enough, especially with players that we knew, like, factually know have what it takes to win.
Right. Let's take our break because we're a little late here, but I do want to continue this going before we start the blame game, including how do we find joy in the boom or bust era, the championship or bust?
Drugs.
That's a good option, yeah. All right, segment 3.
We should not have had D-Line on the show today. What were we thinking?
Guys, if you're putting in a new floor, if you're doing that home business, whatever it might be.
Now that you got time in your hands.
Yeah, you got time off. That's a good off-season activity. Putting in new flooring.
Yeah, dude.
Empire Today, they're going to be your go-to. Don't go to those big box stores. Go to Empire Today. They'll give you the attention. They'll give you the customer service, the one-on-one focus that you need for a big project like your floors.
If you step foot in a big box store and we find out about it,
we will publicly shame you on this show.
If we find out even one person.
You don't even have to step in. If you think about
hold up to the
going
parking
to a
lot.
big box store, if you put it in your Maps app,
we're gonna be scouring people's.
Even think
we're gonna
about
be
it.
scouring people's socials.
Yeah, we're gonna be putting. We're gonna
Just
be
like
on
a
the
box
lookout.
store gun, I mean.
Empire Today, they are your best bet for new flooring. They live and breathe flooring. It's all they do. So get $350 off. Get a free in-home estimate today as well with them. DNVR listeners, you guys can get a $350 discount when using the promo code DNVR. A $350 discount with the code DNVR. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DNVR for full details. They will actually bring the showroom right to your home. You can pick the flooring and the colors for your space. See how it will look in your space with your furniture in your house with Empire Today. $350 off with the code DNVR. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/DNVR for full details.
Good one in the chat there from RP43. But I do have to talk to you about Lucy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, is this 1-1?
Wow.
100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free. Lucy Breakers are nicotine pouches with an extra surprise, Eric. Each pouch holds a capsule that can be broken open to release extra flavor and hydration. Set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. There's like different strengths. It's like numbers.
Bro, can I tell you? Can I read to you a real message I got from my real brother?
Yeah, of course. Just now?
No, the other
Okay.
day. This was a message he sent to both me and my sister. He said, I read a paper this morning that was actually on the positive medical effects of nicotine. Among the benefits were the decrease in both Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. This is not a claim by Lucy. This is a thing my brother sent me. Both
Important
are passed.
distinction, I think, legally. Very important distinction.
Yeah, both are passed on hereditally, and we're both at risk. And I was like,
So what Eric's trying to say is he needs to find his Lucy
So I
number.
think I'm in, dude. I think I'm in basically for my health.
There you go.
Go to lucy.co/DNVR and use promo code DNVR to get 20% off your first order. Lucy has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. Again, that's lucy.co and use code DNVR to get 20% off. Here is the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical.
Mercifully, we are back. Segment 2. Make sure you hit the like button. And, the last thing before we move on to the blame game here is it is weird. And one thing I kind of wrestle with, which is the funnest seasons for me outside the championship year, were the early ones because that expectation isn't there. And it is a weird thing as a fan to enjoy, like the comments. And some of this is just the world, I think, over the last 10 years has like become more negative online. I don't know if it's become more negative overall, but certainly the way people handle their online emotions has. But these years have also been harder to enjoy for that reason, in my opinion. Not because they're not less fun, but because there's this thing hanging over you of, yeah, but if they don't win, what does it mean?
And I think we've all, on this show, we try to do it in a really fun way with each other. But like,
Wancho! It's like, man, that Wancho game was so fun, but he sucks.
But like,
We're like, we won. We're now 15 games out of first.
what I was going to say too, like, eventually it's really fun when you're winning and everyone has their different agendas and you all get a night.
Yeah.
And then everything comes to a head. And you're like, oh, we're all at war with each other now over agendas, which I know are not real things. But there is. That's the part that it's really hard to go online and say I actually am proud of this team because they did fall short, and there's just there is this. I think a lot of people have done it. By the way, I'm just saying you're subject to like.
Oh yeah.
Well, the goal is to win, and by the way, that's true too. And by the way, the players feel that way too. So there's. I mean, the thing about being a sports fan is like you can spend your whole life eating crap, just waiting for that one moment of glory.
Yeah.
But there actually are so many moments in between that like feed you as a fan. And you still get those in all these years you don't win titles. But once the expectations hit a certain place, it's like, how much time are we going to talk about that they played through the injuries, which was awesome. They lost in the second round.
Sometimes it's all about the friends you make along the way.
Do you still believe that?
Yes, I actually do. Listen. I had a rough night last night. I don't know if anybody else watched the Nuggets game. It was terrible.
I did catch it, yeah.
Dude, I was actually live the entire game. I don't know about you.
I pity you. I pity you. Surely you were clipped to high heaven across the internet. Listen, I was like everybody else, I assume, looking for meaning. What is it? What are we doing? Why am I doing this? Why are my emotions as an adult 45, soon to be 46 years, or maybe 47. I don't even know how old I am anymore.
You have to start doing the math.
In a few days, it's my birthday. I'll find out how old I am then. It doesn't matter. What am I doing with myself? Why am I so wrecked emotionally? Why am I so distraught? And then I went around the bar and I gave a lot of hugs. I gave a lot of high fives. I got a lot of like very meaningful messages from people explaining to me why it was so cool, what this whole community means. And I just was left with at the end, like, I think that it's very cool that professionally we have created something that's bigger than the sum of its parts. We use that phrase a lot, but it's bigger than the sport itself. There really is something that trickles out into the real world. And it's about going on a journey with a bunch of like-minded people that have a similar goal in mind and are really kind of up for whatever happens. And it felt cool. It really felt cool, even though I was in a really bad place. And then I got very drunk and I'm hungover. So what was the question?
Was there a moral
What was the question? What are we talking about?
Land that plane or-
To answer Adam's question,
Someone should.
it is tough because way back in the day when we didn't have championship as the goal, everything did seem great and jolly.
Totally,
and
man.
So light.
So
and
jolly.
We watched the Wancho game.
Day
And, oh
by
my
day.
God, they won. And, they
Wee.
but now we're just in like real hoops. Like this is real basketball now. Like this is what the NBA is defined by. This is what this sport is. It's not really when you think back, like we'll remember it because we lived it, but a lot of people don't remember the fun stuff. They just remember the championship. So It's kind of like a sobering reality that we're in right now.
Right.
It's just kind of like real NBA history.
Yeah.
It's a
And
great
it's
point.
good and bad.
It's a great point, man.
And we're experiencing it. And at the end, I think we'll look back at it as all good because the
Yeah.
more distance you get
yeah.
from it, the more the pains of the moment fade, and what lasts are the positive memories. So this is why nostalgia exists, and we'll all have that feeling. But at the moment, we're in the middle of it, and we're just hoping for another one. And we get that one. Guess what? We're gonna hope for another one. It's just how it goes. That's the one thing you learn is you'll never be satisfied.
I know.
This one, which by the way, again, they lost in the second round. They did play the Thunder, and briefly, ever so briefly, you could see the trophy at the end of the tunnel there. For a bit.
Man.
And I would have told you that this one meant a million times more than the first one, which I would have never thought is possible because the Nuggets had never even been to the finals, and then they win. Hell hath frozen over. This would have been something because once you get to that place where you're like, my expectations are high and we're not meeting them, but then here comes the push. Like and honestly, man, I tried to tell you guys, and I think you all saw it, of course, doing your own jobs here. Like, it really did reach the breaking point, that team, that locker room. It was like, do you want to be a team or are you done? And they just decided we want to be a team. That was awesome.
That's what makes sports great.
That's sports. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and the team really does make us proud. Like there's some years you're like, was that a team to be proud of? Like, this is one where you're like, you know what, I'm proud of that group of guys.
Totally. Yeah, there are years you're like, I wish this fucking guy would leave. Sorry, read the report. Would leave Denver, and now I'm like, I can't imagine. Like, I'm so invested in this squad, and the reason I'm so invested is because they have so many traits that I find admirable, and there's so many storylines that get validated, and there's new ones that crop up, and but it's never like, we don't have like that normal NBA experience where you're just worried about, like, what is Kyle Kuzma going to get a fit off?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
there are a lot of years where the best outcome is really lame.
Right.
The
You're
lamest.
just like, all right. Well,
You're
we'll
like,
see.
I know our guy. Like, if our whole year was
Dyson
about
Daniels is the sixth man of the year. I don't know.
exactly
The most improved.
our whole banner was like getting Christian Braun most improved player. We're like, look, this is unbelievable. Yeah. It's unbelievable.
This season for me was AG's hamstring, or Michael Porter's shoulder, or Jokic's elbow, or any of these other things. It was a broken year that the team courageously and valiantly gave everything they had to try to overcome, and they couldn't. And that sucks. And that leads us to the blame game.
Oh boy,
the blame game.
Oh boy, what a game! Time-honored tradition.
So if we talk about, I think the Nuggets could have won a title this year had things broken a little differently. Roster construction, coaching, this or that. I suspect I will be alone in this one. But if I were to assign one person the most blame, and again, I don't. I was trying to put percentages on this earlier, and then I was like, this doesn't make sense to assign a percentage of blame. But if I would have put two people with almost exact identical blame, but I would have tilted it slightly towards Michael Malone. Because while I think Calvin Booth is right there, and you could, if you told me 50-50, or even if you flip that in the other direction, I'm not going to argue you. This is all perspective. But to me, I don't believe that Michael Malone fully acted in good faith over the last 2 years.
He did act in bad faith.
I think for sure he lost the locker room. I mean, I think everybody saw in the aftermath of this that the team awoken. Like, they woke up. Like,
Very
whatever
true.
you think.
Undeniable.
Like, there was a very clear pivot
Undeniable.
point, and it was his exit where the team was like, you know what, guys, let's come together. So he lost the locker room, and I think he lost much of the organization. I think there's a perspective of like the front office didn't like him and pushed him out, or this or that. I think there's a lot of people in every layer that were done with Michael Malone well before the firing. And so I start there, and then I also go into a bunch of things that I think go back years. That is not just about what position he put into developing young guys that were Cal guys, but running Jokic into the ground. Jamal Murray getting away with sort of his shortcomings. I think all of these things actually stem from Malone. He did a lot of good things. I don't want this to be revisionist history. But to me, I think most of the things people are mad about are either can be traced back to him or filtered through him. Somebody else's fault that then got filtered through and augmented by him. So it's almost 50-50 between him and Cal. But for me personally, I would tilt it just 1 ounce more in the Malone direction.
I hated your answer. I liked your explanation.
Yeah.
I thought it's well argued. And I also think the Booth side of it is probably more heavily talked about.
It's easier to identify.
Way easier to identify and also true.
Yeah, of course.
So, look, I mean, Malone lost the locker room. That's just a fact. It's just, you can't look at what happened this year and argue that. Ironically, they got to the second round. Kind of wish they had him in his experience, but that's not the point. They wouldn't have gotten there. I think there's a lot to the like what we've heard, that this core grew up from like needing a basketball dad to being literal actual fathers. And
Right.
Adelman has said, I think that's a really, really important point. I do hold the players responsible as well, though, for some of what happened to Malone. Like, he was asking you to play hard. You should have. He was asking you to watch film. You should have. He who's asking you to play defense. You should have. And honestly, as I listened very closely to what David Adelman said and asked of them, a lot of the same stuff.
Same stuff, man.
They just did it. So, I guess this is sort of the point of the segment. As you kind of will see as we pick our different answers, the way that these are all connected.
Yeah, that's what it is. 100%. Let's take a break. I want to get these two guys' perspective on this question on the other side, and we'll move into all of the players in this. Not players, but people who impacted how this year went.
Whether you're on the road or at home, somewhere in between, First Bank makes banking easy, convenient, and secure. Their mobile banking app allows you to check balances, pay friends, manage your money anytime, anywhere. And here's the best part. Open a new First Bank checking account today. You could earn $300. First Bank is all about helping you stay on track. Their tools make it simple to stay in control of your finances without the hassle. No matter where life takes you, First Bank, they're going to give you the freedom to bank how and when it works best for you. So if you're ready for a better banking and the chance to earn a little extra, head to efirstbank.com/bonus. When you go to efirstbank.com/bonus, open up your account, bank how you want, when you want with First Bank. Certain restrictions and requirements apply. Member FDIC. Go to efirstbank.com/bonus. Open your account, and First Bank, with a new checking account, you could earn $300.
What?
Yeah, 300.
Pretty sick.
300.
Fresh off the plane, I wish I had some Mando because I smell bad, yo. Mando is a men's deodorant brand that's hyper-focused on keeping every aspect of a man's body smelling fresh and clean. I'll tell you what, if you fell in the mud,
Sure.
you wouldn't just take a piece of toilet paper, wipe off your armpits, and go, wow, I'm clean now.
In Serbia, I fell in the mud. I did not do what you said.
You just got in the car. You just got in the car.
I did the next worst thing, or didn't try to clean up at all.
Yeah. Rolled around like a pig. Anyway, here's the point. It's not just your armpits when it comes to men's fragrance and deodorant. Mando overtly calls out more colorful parts of men's bodies, such as pits, bellies, buttons, balls, butt cracks, grundles, munders, and more. Their scents are geared towards men with options like bourbon leather, Cloverwoods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. Mando, they have a starter pack that's perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like that mini body wash and the deodorant wipes, and free shipping. A special offer for our listeners. Fellas, listen up. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack. Use code DNVR at ShopMando. ShopMando, MANDO.com. Please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
All right, we are back here. So just real quick to recap here, some of the things. Calvin Booth laid out a vision, and we're going to go over that. I'm going to present it from one angle, but soon we'll segue. He presented a vision really 3 years ago, but in earnest 2 years ago, that I think Michael Malone not only did not agree with, but he actively sabotaged. And it led to things like KCP not being re-signed. It led to them not bringing in back a Holiday, who probably could have contributed this team. But I think Cal did not believe that in giving Michael Malone those options, he would take anything other than those. Like, he would throw everything else to the wayside. And he was probably right on that. So we'll get to the plan and how bad of a plan it was. But I think to me, it's more damning to sabotage a plan. Because when you're part of a group, you don't get full say in everything, and you have to do other people's visions as much as your own.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason neither one of them are here anymore.
Yeah.
There's a reason that they were fired at such a pivotal moment of the season. It was like they were clearly both found to be acting in bad faith. They were putting their own agendas above the team success, which is just despicable, frankly. It's even though we were you could see it playing out the whole time. Clearly, it went deeper than we realized, or at least I did, in that both got fired because of it. But it was clear that there was that tension that you see in Moneyball, where it's like the GM's like, bro, play this guy. I'm not going to play this guy. Then they get rid of the guy, so you can't play him anymore. And it's stuff like that makes you feel, especially when the team is on a very directed path that is coming from a larger strategy. If everybody's not rowing in the same direction, and your margin for error is already so thin because you're trying to thread the needle between the new salary cap issues and trying to figure out how best to build around Nikola moving forward. For there to be infighting and everything, I mean, it's hard for me to not go the direction you. I mean, you know what? I'm a big fan of Michael Malone, and I just think he was an absolute gift to the city. I think that he really did things that I don't think anybody thought was possible here. I loved the attitude he brought. I loved like what he did, like how he built the Nuggets in his image alongside Nikola Jokic, obviously, but I can't argue the fact that, you know, that he played his hand wrong. And ultimately, you were on this from the beginning. I mean, being at the actual arena and seeing the way that people were interacting with each other, it was clearly a problem.
But also the relationships. I mean, this is the one thing I want to say, because a lot of people will say this about, like, I don't talk to one person. I talk to a lot
That's
of
what I
people
mean,
throughout. And when you hear the same thing from, like, factions of an org, not like, oh, the front office is saying this, but you hear it from every layer,
Right,
and you're like, I
ugh.
think I have a consistent idea of
Right.
what's going on here.
Yeah, I think I'm with you guys. Like, both those guys probably deserve around the same amount of blame.
Yeah.
You know, you can go plus or minus a couple percent to give one guy more blame. I wouldn't fight you that hard if you went either direction there.
Sure.
But I just think, like, for both guys, looking back on it, it's just kind of embarrassing how it played out.
It is.
And the effect that it had on the team. I mean, the fact that a coach GM conflict can bleed into a locker room
Yep.
and affect guys, their mental and on the court, is just embarrassing. And it's just wild the more you step away from it, that, like, neither was the big enough person to like come together and have any reconciliation or any desire to do that. And so they both deserve a ton of blame. Calvin's decisions are way more identifiable and way easier to look at and say, he didn't get any veterans. You know, that's why they lost. Or
And I think part of
his draft pick sucked. Like, that's why he lost.
And I think part of the reason he didn't get veterans was the idea of, like, well, then these other guys won't play. I mean, one of them is Christian. Think about KCP this year. Christian, even in that Minnesota series, KCP made no impact on that one. And it wasn't until game 7 or game 6 that he made the change. And I just think that same thing would have happened this year.
Yeah.
Where it was, and then you're looking at it where Christian right now, you're almost hopeful, although he might cost an arm and a leg. I think that was part of it. You could say it's wrong, because I think it is wrong. He should have just done it.
Can I go devil's advocate, though, just a
Please.
little bit? Because I think Boot, as we've said,
Please.
it's
We'll also get to Booth, but you can go on this point for sure.
just on this point, yeah, just because it's like, I think Malone was right to want to play Justin Holiday over Peyton Watson, man. Peyton Watson wasn't good. Justin Holiday was. Malone was trying to win games in Jokic's prime. So I understand that it's like, hey, there's a lot. The point that their egos got in the way to me is the most salient one, and both of them own that and wear that, and that's why both of them don't work here anymore. But I would say I was way largely more sympathetic to Malone's side of, like, yeah, man, I want to play veterans. What are you talking about? I have one of the greatest players of all time in his prime. I'm trying to win games. Everyone says we should rest him more. When he doesn't play, we go minus 59. We might make the play-in or be relegated to the play-in. So, again, I think Malone made mistakes. I'm not trying to... But, like, I just understand his resistance to the plan. On this point is what I would push back with.
They made the trade, though. This was under Tim Conley to bring in JaVale McGee. Remember, that was a cost that they made because he was like, we need a backup center. We need a backup center. Then they got him, and he never played.
That's a great criticism.
And I think it's the same pattern there that is the pattern that's here. That's like, this is a tough to work with. He's a tough collaborator. I think Michael Malone was a tough collaborator.
That's a good way of putting it.
In thinking about this now, like, I kind of even back up because we are in a position where we're like, oh man, should Adelman be the coach? Should we, you know? And it's like, I think that a big failing was on the Kroenkes by not putting a team in place that was on the same page. That by bringing Calvin in, or just I should say bringing him in, promoting Calvin because it was easy and he was there, and not like having the conversation with him and Malone. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't really obviously know how that went, but clearly those guys were at odds vision-wise from the get-go. And so, like, that was just a slow-moving car wreck that was going to happen no matter what, that those guys the fact that they couldn't collaborate. I don't think it's. I mean, I don't know. What do I know? But I can't imagine there's no one in life that Michael Malone cannot or is able to collaborate with. Like I feel like he could collaborate with somebody that was like-minded, and like they just empowered somebody that was not him. So whatever.
I'm not so, but honestly, my real read is I'm not so sure because I think Michael Malone is extremely politically savvy and minded. And think about this: what if people? Isaiah Thomas loved him. Boogie Cousins loved him. Like he has the love of a lot of players. And I'll take you. I said this the other day on the show. When Russell Westbrook started over Aaron Gordon for all those games, and then eventually Christian Braun, I know that was something, or I've heard from people that was something that really bothered the team because Christian Braun was having a great year and was off to this great start. Aaron Gordon is Mr. Nugget and had put all this time in. But I think Russ was a tricky personality, and I think Malone went with a political choice there of like, this is a path of least resistance, and if Russ is on my side, this is good for me, not just here, but even long term. And there's that. And I think that was, I said the other day was the beginning of the end. I think this had been building for a long time. I thought this whole season was about Michael Malone's maybe keeping his job if they won, but being fired otherwise. But I think that was the one where the team was like, what is going on here? Because AG and CB have done their dues. And this guy is good, but how is he now being elevated to this status? And I think it caused some division. And I think it's a very Michael Malone move.
Yeah, for sure. What I'm saying is, I think that it was wrong from the beginning, and that was just a logical end. All that stuff, like all the people acting out to try and like push their agenda, making the other guy look wrong, just the things that you get into at the end where it's ultimately warranted their firing. Like they both got to a place where they were jockeying amongst one another and like probably using the team, back channeling, having conversations, losing the locker room. I mean, just stuff where it's like just not a healthy organization. And that starts when mom and dad aren't talking.
Yep. No. Right. There's no question. I think that Murray, I'm very curious to see how Murray comes back next year. Because I think this is ultimately on Murray that he's never in shape. Nobody else. Like, I don't want to assign anyone else blame. I don't know that he was held accountable for this because this was a repeated pattern his entire career where he shows up and he's the starting point guard and he's the number 2 and there's no question about it. And I think there was just a little entitlement that was afforded to him by one Michael Malone as well. And I'm curious, and maybe what we're going to get next year, new coach, and it's the exact same story and no, he's not punished for it. But I think that there was a little bit of that as well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Jamal Murray is the next name I was going to nominate, actually.
We have to do Malone and Cal, I feel, for one, too. Oh, we haven't got to Cal yet. I'm right now focusing on one guy because I don't want to make it sound. We're going to have a lot for Cal.
I think we have to throw Josh.
I want to get to Josh, too. Sure. Those are the 4 names I have to spend the most time on. But just trying to tie a bow on Malone, I do think there's a little bit here of the like Murray factor where he was very protective of Jamal in ways that I think were not helpful.
Michael Malone, and he was probably right to do this throughout his career, has aligned himself with his star players. You go back to Sacramento. He's the only coach that Boogie Cousins ever liked or got along with. I mean, there's a reason for that. He is a player's coach from that perspective. If you're a star like Michael Malone, he's always going to have your back. Yeah. And it's honestly a commendable quality about it. It's a great thing about him.
Zeke Naji wouldn't call him a player's coach, though.
Right.
Malone wouldn't call him a player.
Definitely not a real one. But I do think like his presence definitely has a big effect on Jamal in terms of like he was not held as accountable as he should have been over the last couple of years. He's been allowed to like, come into training camp not in the best shape, work himself into shape. Like Jamal can just decide when he plays and when he doesn't play. I mean, that is because of Michael Malone. So, yeah. And just with how Jamal's season ended and all that, I mean, 13 points in a game 7, he's definitely the player you have to look to. And I think like how Michael Malone has managed him, I mean, is a big reason why he's the way he is in some aspects.
Cal, do we have break 3? Let's keep rolling on then. So let's move on to Calvin Booth now. Okay. We can go line by all the mistakes, but here are the 4 things I kind of go through. Far too invested in his own vision. Just as a coach has to be a collaborator, a front office member has to be like, I think I know the answer. But if other people aren't on board with it, I can't force that answer through. And I think he learned that lesson way too late or didn't learn it at all. Horrible asset management. He just made a handful of trades that felt like throwaways, and then all of a sudden the cupboard's completely bare. He didn't bring shooting or athleticism to the roster. Even if you were to hit on like the guys that he brought in, it's not an athletic enough roster, and there's not enough shooting, even unless Hunter Tyson and Julian Strawther. And if you're counting on that, like, come on, man. So that, and then probably line item number one, contributed to a bad culture. And this wasn't, in my opinion, just his conflict with Michael Malone.
Right.
I think he struggled to connect with people above, below, and alongside him as he tried to instill his vision. So to me, those four things, and then you can go line item. It was very damning, all those things, but those are the things.
One thing we really heard about the Tim Connolly front office over and over again was how collaborative it was, to the point where at some point we went, is it really Tim? Or are we sure it's not this Arturis guy? Are we sure it's not Calvin?
Yeah.
Turns out it was Tim.
Yeah.
Or a group.
This is the funny.
Or a group, right?
Well, here's the irony of it. Tim didn't fight. Like, Tim took a lot of internal behind-the-scenes losses. He took a ton of L's.
That's what I'm saying.
Because he had to give and give and give. And guess who's on top right now? Tim Connolly. Best GM in the world.
Go figure, dude.
Yeah, he took all these L's and ended up with a dub.
So I think Tim, like, it's really, this stuff you sort of all say in hindsight on a podcast. Like, for Tim, he's just working day to day, you know? He's not, like, waking up and, like, thinking about culture. But all these little things, like being collaborative.
Yeah, dude, just being a vibesman.
I just think this was an org where people were like, yo, it'll be cool to come to work tomorrow, and we're all working towards something.
What about when he pulled the Tim, though?
Yeah, dude.
Probably less fun for everyone. But
He also had that, too.
Which, by the way, to be clear, is like, you thought we had a plan? Tyler Lydon.
I've got a gut feeling, though. I got a gut feeling.
Which he does do. Which he does.
I'm going to draft.
I mean, that's something
Leroy
every GM
Jenkins.
does. I think we've learned that by now.
But he listens, and or at least fostered this sort of environment of like people were excited to come here and build towards that vision. And I think somewhere along the lines, and I think Booth played a role in this, it just sort of shifted to like, well, I got to cover my ass here because this is not looking good.
I think the Nuggets have been in cover your ass territory for the last 2 years. And that's part of what we're talking about here. But Cal, I just mentioned, fully invested his own vision, horrible asset management, lack of shooting athleticism contributed to bad culture. That kind of covers the scope.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty bad GM.
That's pretty damning. That's pretty tough.
Like every duty of the GM.
Yeah. What happened was Cal came up with a plan, a very ambitious plan that did not need to be as ambitious as it was.
Agreed.
I really feel like he tried to 4D chess the CBA, and it didn't need to be as hard as he laid it out to be. And he kept doubling down and doubling down and doubling down and going harder and harder and harder into it. And that was the only way it was ever going to happen, you know, in his mind. He had thought it out. He had done different scenarios. He had thought every type of plan through. And he came away thinking this was the best route to do it. And that's the direction he went. And there was no bumping him off of that.
Right.
You know, there was no compromise. There was no, maybe this isn't going to exactly work out. And that is his biggest fault, I think, not recognizing in the moment that his vision that he had thought through longer than anybody else and game planned out and looked at from every different angle, it just was not working and was not going to work under the situation here in Denver with who the head coach was, and he wasn't willing to budge off it.
I would go even further, though, because to me, it was even like his whole plan was predicated on Malone's buy-in. Yeah. And Malone's ability to sabotage this was so easy. Yeah. Like, he was like, you know what I mean? He put himself in position where Malone just merely had to like knock the thing down and be like, okay, well, what if I do this?
How about no?
Yeah, no. And it's like, well, now I have no backup. No crap.
I didn't think about this.
Totally. Yeah. And when you said double down, and that really stood out to me because it's not just that Booth identified his guys and was convinced they would work. He burnt capital to get them. And some of them guys that may well have been available later in the draft. Easy to say now. And I actually kind of respected GM's conviction and like, no, I think this guy is good, but you got to get it right. And then then you sign Reggie, then you give him a player option. Now you got to get rid of 3 seconds to get off of him. Right? You move picks to go get Peyton Watson, who might develop into something really impressive. Keyword might. You move picks to get it. I think Christian Braun was a great pick. At the time, you literally could have argued, I think, like, is this a trade back guy? That's always easier said than done. Go get him. It was the right pick. I just, so much was burnt to be like, these guys will work. And if they don't and didn't, it's like, what's the optionality?
It was so easy to thwart Calvin's plan that Malone would just play a two-way backup point guard who wasn't even eligible for the playoffs over the guy that everybody else in the building wanted to play.
The Suns are just
and there was nothing anybody could do about it.
And it's why fans hate Cal and have like lukewarm feelings about Malone, like some of this or that. When again, I think they're on equal footing. It's just like, hey man, these guys have sabotaged each other and it cost us all.
Yeah, and for me, when I look at Calvin Booth now, it's like I actually respect the idea that he was so in on his plan. Like, I think that is an admirable trait for somebody in a leadership position, that they're unwavering in their vision. It's just like, that's, if you're wrong, this is what happens. Yeah. That's it. Yep. Like, you're just that.
Well, it's so funny because like, if he would have done the safe thing and got veterans and it still didn't work, he probably would still have a job.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think Cal knew that. And that's why I say there is almost a respectability to Cal's obscene vision, because it like, and I actually also, here's one thing I will say. Luke Cornett, undrafted. Peyton Pritchard, undrafted. Sam Hauser, I don't remember, undrafted.
Cason Wallace. Do you know what pick Cason Wallace was?
Like, this idea that it's insane to try to go young in the back end of your roster with like, well, to me, I just don't think that's true. I think it's the new NBA. And I think he saw like, hey man, our roster, the real damning thing is Michael Porter and Jamal Murray are max contracts and they're not quite. So it's like, we are already hamstrung to where we're going to have to just get cheap guys.
And we're
going to have to nail it. And he went young instead of vet cheap. Both might have failed either way, but he went this way and now it looks the way it did. But his execution from everything he did was just very, very poor. And as a result, the Nuggets are where they are. But let's move on to the next one, which is the Kroenkes to me. And then we'll get to Jamal Murray here a little bit later. But the Kroenkes, this all really started, if you ask me, with Tim Conley. Yep. Because I think Tim Conley was taken for granted here. And it's easy to see why. Just all the things we said.
Right.
He is both a genius and a regular guy. Yep. And I think it was easy at times to look at the regular guy angle of it and be like, it's just a guy, man. We'll find another one.
Like equity?
We have Jokic. How hard could it really be?
Yeah.
And on top of that, and so the Kroenkes, I think, one, they let go of Tim Conley, in my opinion. I don't know this to be true. This is my opinion. I think it was a contract negotiation ego thing. I think they did not. Stan Kroenke hates losing any negotiation. Tim Conley put him in a pickle and said, hey, I know I'm under contract, but these people are offering me more money, so you pay me more money. And I think to Stan Kroenke, you might as well insulted his mother.
Right.
Because he will, at that point, there is no way he's going to break. But what he didn't realize was this can all end very quickly if you don't do it right. Tim has now built a juggernaut in another city, in the a division rival. And then on top of that, when things with Cal and Malone were spiraling, I had this take coming into the year because I saw these things already last year. I thought last year I was like, man, this is not going the right direction. Totally. And I don't think there's a roster change that's going to fix it. There's a culture change. And we went into the season, we went all the way deep until 3 games in before the move made. So for me, the Kroenkes started this thing and were way too late to correct it.
And they were way too late to like really see it. It seems like too.
Yeah.
Because even in, Josh's press conference after both those guys were fired, he said, I thought about firing them at different times throughout the season, but my read was I don't think he did that because I don't think he actually saw it.
Yeah.
And there's problems here, but they can kind of like pull it together. I'm not sure if they actually realized how bad it was until Stan Kroenke was sitting on the bench for a game in March.
Yeah.
That was a little weird.
Right.
And I really don't think it was until then that they saw like, oh shit, we really have a problem here. So I think some of it is definitely on them for just not seeing how big of an issue it was and how much it was derailing this team before they did.
Yeah.
They also offered him extension, to your point, Wind. Like the timeline is a little...
What do you think that extension was?
Probably real low.
Are you saying Cal?
Yeah, Calvin.
Can I get into this? Because we're going to talk more about this tomorrow.
Please.
I think another angle or another layer of all of this is that the Kroenkes like to be in charge and like their involvement more than I think people realize. And I think some of this has to do with they hire new guys and bring in young new guys in part because new guys don't have the clout to push back. So if they, and I'm not saying they're the one pulling the strings, I just think they like the idea of controllable assets. And Cal Tim, even when he got here. Perhaps if they go with Adelman, these are more controllable than a Michael Malone. And you're coming out of an era where Cal and Malone both went rogue, and it's like, we don't want wild horses anymore. Right. We want horses that were born into captivity.
Yeah. Right. Well, to me though, also I hope the lesson here for them moving forward is that you have to get a coach that the GM hired. Like those two have to be a team,
which is
you
why
can't piecemeal it. Like you can't bring in one where something is already established and just assume that they're going to get onto the same page. It's like if once Tim was done, and once Tim left, and they bring in Calvin had to be like, they should have been like, is this your guy? Or one way or the other. Like they can't assume that there's going to be. The two are going to.
Which is
together.
one of the main reasons I think if you were at Vegas odds right now, Ben Tenzer and David Adelman are inside. They have the best odds right now, and I think it's for that reason. Is if Adelman's your guy, you can't bring a GM after that. Right. And if you bring in a GM and you're like, well, Adamson's our guy, he's like, I don't know about that. Totally. It's like, okay, now we're starting off with conflict.
Yeah, you can't. They cannot do that. Cannot. They have to hire the GM first. And then the coach comes second. Yeah. And it has to be, if it is Ben Tenzer, it has to be his decision to bring on David Adelman.
The last one here, just because we're out of time, Jamal Murray, and I do put a lot on him.
We can't even get through the front office in the blame game on day one, dude. There's so much blame to give out.
Because there is other people. I have Adam Silver on the list. You go through a lot of people here.
I'm on there eventually.
I know this ladder's up to Elon Musk.
Jamal Murray is the last guy I'm going to put here just because they signed him to another max contract. This is not like Michael Porter. They signed to that max contract. They never should have. We could throw Tim Conley on this because he's the one that gave the Michael Porter contract that has made everything so tough. Yeah. So we could go there. But Jamal Murray, to me, this year, so much was just riding on him. And going into next year, I think everybody's on the same page. The Nuggets have a superstar, and then they have some good players. And you can't win like that when you pay a guy a max. So for me, Jamal Murray, in both the playoffs and in the regular season, was good, really good. But he's not the pick you would make to maximize Jokic's prime. And he just... once again, I think put too much on the shoulders of Jokic early on in the year to carry a load that he should never be asked to do.
And then I also didn't think was very good in the playoffs by the perspective of we're waiting for you because you are.
He wasn't special. He was good though. I don't think he was bad.
He had two special games.
He was good, but good isn't good enough.
But wasn't that the promise too? Yeah. I'll be normal now. I'll be special then.
I think it's gone.
That's what I'm saying, man. And I know he had a great.
You have to assume it's gone. That's what it is.
I think when you go, if you're a bright lights guy and you go 2 straight postseasons underperforming in the bright lights, I know he was hurt last year. It's just like, all right, so where's the benefit of the doubt now?
Cason Wallace is a hell of a defender, but if you're like, hey man, he's good as long as he doesn't have to go up against Cason Wallace or Aaron Wiggins, you're like, man, come on. Like, Yoke went up against Zubats, Anthony Davis, Rudy Gobert. Yoke's playoff resume is kind of almost hidden by the fact that he's gone up against the toughest matchup possible in almost every series. I can't wait till we get the one series where he's going up against some horrible defensive player. Where's he get Mason Plumlee in a playoff?
Just one time.
Well, he plays in the Western Conference, so that's not going to be possible.
Oh, no.
He's not going to get to go up against the Pacers.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Jamal Murray in the playoffs, he was kind of the same guy that he was in the regular season. Yeah. That's the same vibe I got from Jamal in the playoffs. His scoring, his knack for the big moments. It was pretty much the guy he was in the regular season, and I think that's been the case the last 2 playoffs now. Because I think that's what he was in the playoffs last year, too. He was more injured in the playoffs last year than he was this year.
Yeah.
And he had some big moments, but I think largely he was a similar guy in the playoffs to who he was in the regular season. There were moments when you go, it's Jamal Murray. He's back. Here he is.
Here he is.
If you're watching on Fast, go on over to the internet just to finish up Harrison's point.
The World Wide Web.
And there were a lot of other moments where you're like, this guy just needs to give us a little more as a number 2 guy.
The nice saving grace to wrap this up, there is a lot of blame. I think this season, though, largely, as we step back from it, there were roster decisions that made it more difficult. There was these things, but the fact that there was a civil war brewing inside of the organization and they still were able to do what they did.
That's how good Jokic is.
I just walk away from this year. Eric, you and I, we had different perspectives on this year, but I think we ultimately have the same, which is that the Nuggets are always close. They're always close.
Yeah,
I think the
window's
Nuggets
wide
made
open.
it too hard on themselves this year.
Yep.
But there's this hopelessness of like, it's all over. And I go, no, it's not.
Oh, it's not even close.
Cohesion of like alignment within the organization is going to do wonders for this team. And the pieces there, man, they're playable players. Sam Hauser, Cornette, like you could laugh if you were like, oh, these are the guys. But you know what? When you have a good alignment, you can get or develop or find guys that can fill that role. Those guys are, I don't want to say a dime a dozen because I do value them, but it's not like there's one on earth and we have to get
several
him.
million a dozen.
There are a lot of players that could be the 7th, 8th, and 9th guy in a Nuggets rotation.
And you'd be in the
work
conference
out.
finals this year, even with the injuries.
Even with all of
the
that.
injuries.
Even with all of that.
So that to me is like one way or another, the Booth Malone stuff literally costing roster spots. You know what I mean?
And that's the thing, yes.
It's like, bro, come on, man.
Whoever side you were on that, the fact that it was there just shows you, like, what are we doing? We're not
agree.
optimizing ourselves. But it's over. Right. And I will say, I think the Nuggets are very aware, and there's a million lessons to learn in life. You don't get to learn them all. The Nuggets, I think, had to painfully learn this one. The Kroenkes had to painfully learn this one. Will they make the right choice? TBD. But I would be shocked if there was a civil war next year.
Yeah. Well, you know what sucks, Adam? They didn't learn that last year.
Well,
they needed 2 years to learn it.
Murray, I think I felt pretty strongly this, and I think they should have. They should have as well.
We pretty much had this exact same podcast last year.
I think they learned it this year, though.
Yeah.
I would hope so.
But here's the thing that like needs to be acknowledged is like how close they were to actually getting like we were all convinced they were going to win this series. Like I before last game, like we were all like, oh, they got it, they figured it out. I would say I was until the last 13 seconds of the game 6 when AG got hurt. Well, yes,
but yes,
but AG wasn't he obviously wasn't himself, but like the way that game played out, it like just makes it look like everything else was just such a disaster. And it's
they were close.
They were really close. And like, I mean, like
there.
I'm since last night, like I'm just replaying the game in my head and I'm like so sickened.
Which is Adam's point.
Yeah, and I'll tell you,
by the game itself,
but
the way the game
the
was
org
played.
feels the same way though.
Right.
And from talking to people today, there isn't a sense of, oh my God, we're so far out. There's a sense of like, we're right there, man. This year was the dumbest year. We walked uphill both ways for some reason.
So everyone
and
grow
we
up.
almost got there.
Yep. So everyone grow up. Let's come back and let's figure this out.
Let's come back and get it. And I think the players feel that way as well, by the way. I mean, I think the players don't look at this and go like, we need 6 guys to make our... I think they look at there and go, we can do better. We can do better.
For sure.
Let's get to some Super Chat. Tomorrow, by the way, I do want to talk about Tenzer, Adelman, and what the Nuggets have to consider as they start to move forward and some of the moving pieces. I think that'll be interesting, but let's get to our Super Chat.
Don't we have a game tomorrow? What are we
don't
doing?
have a game tomorrow.
15
Summer
piece
League doesn't start for a couple months.
God
from
damn it.
Terrence Hall. Finally became a diehard yesterday.
Yes!
Yeah, Terrence,
Hell
let's go.
yeah, dude.
Hated watching the Nuggets flame out yesterday, but couldn't think of a better place to watch it than the DNVR bar. Thanks for pepping us up after the loss, D-Line.
Just
D-line.
D-line. I will say this. Whenever people say they became a diehard, obviously you get the written content, but it also feels to me like it's somebody saying, hey, I like you guys and think you should exist.
Yeah, but also you should just do it because we like you and we want you to be entertained.
Yeah.
That's
Like it, you can think of it as a charitable expense, but you can also just think of it as a cool thing you can have in your life.
good. Well said, both of you. Joe Shea, yesterday, Adam Maras? Yesterday
so.
AM. Yesterday morning, I see. I said no matter...
Yesterday, Adam
As soon as you were doing it, I did the exact same thing.
Yeah, it was like I was
went
so
through the
convinced
whole
that's what
thing.
he meant. Yeah. Yesterday morning, I said, no matter what happens, I'm happy we got this far. I lied. I'm sad. MPJ for Middleton. Will Saric leave? Thank you guys for a great year.
I don't think MPJ for Middleton happens, although you never know, man. You never know. Like,
You never know.
I will say this: the Nuggets probably make some moves that I have no idea, big or small, some moves this year, and I think they'll all feel like MPJ for Middleton, where you're going to be like, "Is that better? Is
Bro,
it?
I gotta
Like,
tell
we
you-
don't know." But it's
I gotta tell you, like,
Sarge, you better hope he leaves.
I gotta tell you, like, if you're looking across the league at people who feel most frustrated with the way that this season went for them, The Cavaliers have to be at the top of the list. They did everything right. They made the big acquisition.
But nobody actually thought the Cavs were going to win the championship.
I kind of briefly thought that they would win the East.
I never did.
You're right to it.
But I'm just,
obviously.
they did. They thought that.
Right,
and they did all, well. Okay.
There are some stories coming out that
They
the
had the
team
best-
was fracturing at the end of the year,
Well,
which is weird.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, you look at when you look at
They look good.
what you want your organization to do, to be active at the trade
Yeah.
deadline, to do
Go all in.
to go all in, to get the right coach, that like all the stuff. It's hard out there in these streets, fellas.
Yeah, it is tough. Look, man, every year 29 teams are pissed at the
They
end
all
of the
have to do this fucking podcast.
season.
Jay,
One team
1 year
doesn't.
ago after the Game 7 loss in true sicko fashion, I became a diehard.
Ah!
Yeah. Oh, Jay.
And here's a plea
you.
from Jay to the chat. Become a diehard. Go to the bar and be reminded that people rock.
Jay's the best.
That's
man.
a great line because that's again, it's community.
Dude,
I
I gave
know,
Jay a very hard hug, and I knocked her.
There are so many things about this world
Knocked her
that
hat off.
suck. But like, you come here for a Nuggets game in a packed bar, and you're just chilling with the homies, and it's like, this world does suck, but
I know.
not everything about it.
I
sucks.
had a lot of these conversations that I mentioned, and like guys were talking about how dope it is to come to the bar because you meet other people that are
Other
just
people.
screen names otherwise, and like
Yeah.
you were meeting somebody at being on the same level to start with.
It's the only place you could scream "pregnant man" and everyone's
Yeah.
like, "Hell yeah!"
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
yeah.
No follow up.
Do not scream that anywhere in the South. I'll tell you that. Don't do it.
The DLLS bar. Be
Yeah,
careful.
do not.
Okay,
Guys, we're a brand new network. Don't scream that.
Got to land this plane for Jay though. She says, "Thank you, boys. It is truly not Denver to me anymore." Without
To be
DNVR.
honest, that line, when we set this thing out in motion, we wanted people to think that.
Yeah, that the
We
best
are
compliment,
Denver.
Best
Like,
compliment
we
you
wanted
could give
this to
us.
be.
That is
Denver.
our tagline. We are Denver.
It's not Denver without DNVR, so
Just-
we appreciate it.
You could
man.
live anywhere, right? Why live here? And you got the Nuggets, and I'd
Because
like
of
to
us.
think you got us.
You're like, I can't move
Not
because of
gonna
that
lie.
online thing.
More about Jokic than us, but we're here too. Diz, thoughts on Kuminga? Flawed player, but big and athletic, plus Warriors don't like him, and you'd be buying low. Maybe Jokic can fix him. I don't know.
I'm telling you right now, he is wrong for Denver in the exact direction he is wrong for Golden State. He does not understand team basketball, but he is incredibly talented individually.
We're
Yeah,
already
he-
onto
he,
the cum bucket
he
that quickly.
wants to be on like a. He wants to be a good. He wants to be a bad team, good stats guy.
He probably really hated being on the Warriors this year and really wanted to be on the Suns.
Correct. Yeah. He's like, I would get so many shots.
Hey,
like, dude, those guys over there
Kuminga
get it.
It's what you want.
Dude, during my
the
pain,
next Jokic
during my pain scroll, since there were no Joy scroll available last night, like one of the first things that popped up, they were like, "Oh, how to fix the Nuggets? We just need to trade MPJ for Jeremy Grant."
yeah.
I was like,
Time in the flat circle.
"God damn it, we need Kevin Love. What do we need?" Like,
Can we trade AG for like Gary Harrison? A pick? A first round draft pick.
God.
That could be anybody.
Is RJ Hampton still there? Can we get him
he's
back
out of the league,
too?
actually.
Yeah, damn it.
Bones lasting longer than RJ Hampton.
Go
All right,
figure.
Marco Martic.
Well, kind of.
Well, I guess one of them was good, but so yeah, maybe.
Also, I think RJ Hampton was a year before him, and I'm not sure if Bones will be there next year. They might actually both have lasted
Give
the
it another
same
calendar
time.
year. All right, here we go. Marco Martic, just a few months in, and the DLS Mavs have already had the head coach on their podcast. Oh, fighting words here. DNVR has been around way longer and still hasn't had a head coach on.
Marco, do you think we haven't asked Michael Malone
Michael
many
Malone-
times if he wants to come on the show?
To be honest with you, it became kind of a running bit that he was always
If
like,
you-
I'm coming on,
some
coming to the
people
bar.
might have caught on to this, but
can I also tell you that podcast has Mark Stein on it? So
yeah.
bit of an inside edge.
I bet you-
also
bet you
Michael
we get
Malone, I will
Edelman.
say, he said many times, I'll come to the bar, I'll see you guys this summer, we'll all have beers. Never came.
Never did.
Never came.
I'm saying, Malone, like, there's nothing to lose now, brother. So just
Bro,
come
we're
through,
getting
buddy.
chin-chin.
All right.
In
I
our
bet you will.
own super
I'll bet
chats.
you will get Adelman. We'll bet you will get Adelman.
By the
dude,
way,
we'll-
if you
we'll
have-
Pregnant man?
dude, we'll throw him a baby shower.
Oh my God.
If he gets the
He will
job,
not find that funny.
if he gets the job, we'll officially throw him a baby shower.
You guys, you will be so confused. All right, let's get through the rest of these super chats.
not in a
By the
hurry.
way, if you didn't see, Michael Malone will be on ESPN covering the conference finals with ESPN.
He's going to be
So
great at that,
basically,
man.
he'll be everywhere
awesome.
but
He'll be
here.
so good. And I
Can you
predict he does
imagine
media next year
if the
too.
Nuggets made it and he was doing that holy F? That would have been insane.
Yo, dude. Oh my God.
Oh, they
would've
robbed
been
us of this.
Jose Aviles.
amazing.
I felt like they were 2 to 3 reliable players short, which is exactly what they lost after the ring. The BB Jay Green archetype is exactly what we are missing.
I agree. How you find those extra guys. And those guys are very
Russell
gettable.
Westbrook should have been Bruce Brown. He
Bruce-
fell apart.
Bruce Brown was available on day 2 of free agency, by the way. These guys, it's not like the Nuggets
Right,
got the
he
crazy.
wasn't even our first signing.
And
DeAndre Jordan was.
That's right.
RP43, Moneyball it. MPJ's dead weight and Jamal's bad games are hurting
Let's
more.
lock in DJ. Then let's see what else is
That
out there.
we forgot how funny that moment was, and they won the title, so F it. But that was honestly the ultimate, like, what?
Go back and watch that free agency special where we're live during it. And the DJ news comes through and we're all just like, shocked.
This is our first
one.
Like, that was the thing we had to get done as the clock
I
struck
mean,
3
we,
o'clock.
we know that's not how it works.
He did. He did eventually say to me, he's like, well, I think it was just the order that messed people up. I'm like, yeah, man, it was. But anyway.
There was no need to announce that.
Yeah. Don't even leak
He
that
could have
one,
just
bro.
showed up on media day. And we're like, oh, DJ's
You're like, yeah.
conference, bro.
You're like, this signing could have been an email.
And then, by the way, media day, DJ got there, and one by one, we all just asked him, like, do you think you're gonna die soon? You're so old.
it's like,
You're so old.
Wait, are you sure you can still play? How old are you?
We lost him within the first 5 minutes. He's like, I'm never talking to these people.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do RP43
To be
super
fair,
chat.
we were right.
So is he. Moneyball it. MPJ's dead weight and Jamal's bad games hurt more than what CBAG PWA are worth. Trade all 5. Start over with the yoke. You have 6
Oh
more
my
years.
gosh.
All right.
I don't
know. And
I just love the idea when you're just like, trade him. You're like,
All
that's
right.
not a one-sided thing.
Our guys all suck. Can we trade them
I know.
for
We're
guys
like,
that don't?
I know. Yeah. Hey, yeah.
Quick
it's not
question.
working for us. New players, please.
Let's just do MPJ for Giannis.
Yeah. How closely did you guys watch the 2023 title run?
Not very closely at all.
And you haven't watched anything else since then, right?
Right?
Look,
Right?
man,
You've been in
there's
Europe
going to be
or
a lot of time to talk about trades this summer. I think the Nuggets try to do something big. It's going to be really tough to do something big, though.
I think it
feel
might
like.
depend on having a GM.
Well, that would be the move that should come.
You think there'll be
first.
some full-blown trades?
Doubtful. Full-blown trades.
But I bet they kind of just run it back.
Well, it may be harder to trade than we think. But
That's
Pete
what I'm
says
saying, yeah.
the vision was foolish and naive. The execution was worse. Malone is about wins. Can't fault him for that. Real shame. Him and Booth acted like infants.
I'm telling you, though, right now, I don't know that that's true. Malone was about wins. I think Malone left wins on the table for...
Trying to be right
Yeah.
about something.
So that's why I feel the way I feel.
Pete, again, Zeke didn't earn an extension. Sharich signing horrendous asset mismanagement. The dead weight on the roster is an indictment on Booth, and here we are.
Here we
It
are.
is true, though. Deadweight is that. Signing Hunter Tice. Everybody always complains about Pickett or something. I'm always like, Hunter's the guy that we have under contract
Hunter's
for 2
probably
years.
the worst of those 3 for sure.
We know.
And he's on a contract.
He's on a
Sarge signing
contract.
was a disaster for sure.
The Nuggets having 9 guys under Jeff Schwartz somehow, and they're all bad. You're like, hold on a second. What happened here?
The Z contract, I don't think it's as bad as it seems, or it shouldn't have been as bad as it seems. But
It
now
is now.
But now it's bad.
Yeah.
If you ask Zeke who his least favorite person on earth is, I bet you I know who it is.
Me?
Yes.
Mike Pemberthy.
I think he likes Penberthy.
Oh, okay.
5555-ish?
Jay Kerr.
It's his homie.
Jay Kerr, kudos to Vogt. Great writing on the Gutsy article. Thank you, brother. Check
That's
that
not
out.
what that says. You just made that up.
Vogt, in all sincerity, did a great job all year. There's a handful of people writing about the Nuggets right now, telling stories about the Nuggets. None of them know what Vogt knows.
Right.
Been here from the very beginning.
Like
and then on
grammar?
top of that, he's a great writer. So
Thank
a
you,
lot of
guys.
these
Thank
stories are like people, and I'm not trying to put anybody down. A lot of people can write in this narrow lens about this team.
Yeah.
And maybe you're a good writer, maybe you're not. Vogt is both a good writer and has the full perspective of this entire journey.
What's
And
great
if you're
about-
subscribing
yeah.
to any place for written content, to me it's insane. Like, throw out whatever you think of the outlet. There's nobody that's been along for this ride from the beginning to draw from. Everybody else is like fight cycles in and out, come
Sure.
through and come out. Been here from the start.
Yeah.
Did a
After-
fantastic
After
year.
every
Thank you,
vote
Appreciate
piece that I read, I'm like, wow, that was like a whole story wrapped up into one. A story that like from game 1 to game 2 to game 3, all wrapped up into one thing. And you just learn something every time.
Also made your hits better, I feel.
It all works together.
Yeah, like your brain was clearer.
You also you just have a sense of what it is you're trying to say.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you And that's what we try to provide at the
That's why you
DNVR.com.
become a diehard.
And once you become a diehard for this, you have access to everyone's premium content across the whole site. You never know what other Denver beats might suck you in, so check it out.
It'd be
That
like-
is something great about DNVR, though, just in terms of our writing. All our writers, for the most part, have been here for the long haul.
Yeah.
And a lot of our writers started with their teams when they were bad.
Yeah.
Like we all did. So it's cool.
I appreciate it. And I will also say, which I know wasn't your point, I'm just going to say it, a lot of really talented, hardworking people on the beat, too, who are doing great work. Sasha N, MPJ, Sharch, and Zeke for Paul George.
We are, man. I mean,
Paul George?
It honestly feels. Oh, man.
Did you see Paul George brought his podcast back? Did you see this clip he had?
No.
You guys, this might be something to talk about tomorrow.
Dude, if James Harden is talking
Paul
trash about
George
you, saying
said
you're a
he had to
loser.
step away from podcasting to get his body right. And now he's back.
Step away from podcast.
I will say
Yeah,
this.
that's why he had to step away last season.
Some of the diehards in Philly crunched the numbers way better after a podcast.
I'll say this. I think Paul George is still supremely talented and a really good player, and the last person on earth I want in the foxhole with me.
Yeah.
Bro.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
him, Harden.
No, Harden was looking down on him. Like, dude, that guy was a loser. You're like, Harden saying this?
Bro,
I'm just
if
talking about guys that I don't want in the fox.
if Paul George was here with a grade 2 shoulder sprain, he would be scoring negative points.
Oh,
But
no. Yeah.
And still wouldn't even be podcasting.
Anyway, Michael Myers. Don't think we need to blow it up. Our starting five is statistically the best or near best year after year. We just need some 3-and-D guys.
Agreed. That's why I'm
Here's-
optimistic.
Here's what I'll say to that, and I agree with it for the most part. Don't you think you could slot in some other guys to the starting five and they would still be at the top statistically of 5-man lineups?
I think
a
that's
good
one of the
push.
things we learned this year.
Yeah.
It's a good point.
But
Harrison.
I generally agree that the starting five is very good.
Well, also, I think the argument too is like, well, just add depth, right? But with the way the top 5 are paid, and then Zeke, it's really hard to do that. I get it, man. Like, that's the thing we've been trying to say. They fell so well short; they are not that far away.
Yeah.
Richard M. Nixon Gaming, insane. If Trae Young is available, should we make the move?
No.
I don't think you can win with Trae Young and Jokic.
I don't think he's a
and I
winner.
love Trae Young. I actually am not a Trae Young hater. I think he's really good. I don't think that duo can defend pick and rolls.
No.
It's just like a gaming channel, but whatever. I'll ask you later. Kyle M. Hey, Win.
Hey,
Hey,
Kyle.
Win gets it this
What's
time.
up, Kyle?
All right, does it? We went long today, Kale, but it's the first day of the off season.
We didn't even get halfway through our blame.
I know we might have to continue our blame
Blame game
game.
part 2 tomorrow.
Everybody, full off season, no shortage of things to talk about.
Well,
Haven't
there's
even.
all those other pods out there that are talking that might take a little break right now. We don't take breaks here.
Are you kidding me? We're doing 2-a-days. Hit the
Yeah.
like button on the way out.
We all silly like the mayor.